Welcome to the Agent of Change Thought into Form podcast. I'm your host, Steve Gutgeld. Welcome to episode 25, Self-Leadership. To begin, let's take a look at what basic leadership means. I'm not talking about the old school definition, as many evolutionary ideas have integrated into the new paradigm of business and leadership. All of the attributes or skills translate perfectly to self-leadership. But the new models also include emotions and a higher self, which we'll get into in a moment. If you've been listening to all of my podcasts, each one is full of ideas and shared experiences that define leadership. It's a wide spectrum. There are so many qualities to self-leadership that it takes a book to communicate them with detail, examples, and iteration. They are all intimately connected in many ways. Stay tuned, I'm working on that. If you haven't listened, you might save yourself a couple $1,000s of workshop fees by listening and taking notes. It's all there. I just didn't label it leadership qualities. The podcasts collectively represent a breakdown of the list I'm going to share. So what is leadership? Today it's defined by, but not limited to, these concepts. Leaders lead by example. Leaders are aware of the culture. Leaders take risks. Leaders are a catalyst for change. Leaders understand the critical personal connection to source. Leaders experience crisis and chaos as opportunity and an evolutionary driver. Leaders understand that failure is feedback and growth. Leaders want to try to break new ideas to see if they are real. Leaders create value for everyone in their team. Leaders thrive by having no map. Leaders have patience. Leaders use their wisdom and talent to share their truth with the world. Leaders continue to do their own shadow work. Leaders respond instead of react. Leaders think up versus staying in fixing mode. Leaders are authentic, vulnerable, courageous, and curious. Leaders understand the value of the breakdown, breakthrough principle. Okay, this is a great starter list. Go back and listen to it again, or write it down. You can also copy and paste it from the show description. It's going to be vital to what we look at next. Each item is worth researching or investigating. Many of the words beckon exploration of their root meaning. So, what does leadership have to do with self-leadership? As I mentioned earlier, all of the items on the list transfer directly to self. One of the first questions I had was that in a leadership role, you usually have a board or a group you're working with. Does that even apply to self-leadership? What I discovered is that I do have a board that I meet with, and we meet many times each day. I just wasn't paying attention to who was present. My board consists of my little child, my ego, my personality, my higher self, and my connection to source. So there's 6 people that I ignored all my life. No wonder I suffered with this for so long. My role as leader is to acknowledge my board in all its individual faults and limitations. Then I lead by telling them what my vision is at the moment. Then I notice which ones are having a hard time with it. I let them tell their story. I consider it. Sometimes they have a valid point. In all cases, connection to source and higher self have the best points. So then I let the others know that I've heard them, and that this is what we're going to do. The most critical part of this is that I tell them why we are going to do something. Acknowledging my board in this manner gets everyone on board, and then the team moves forward right away. Just like in a normal leadership role, in self-leadership, one of the most important inner voices to notice is the imposter. We all know this one. You're standing in front of a group of people about to speak, and a little voice says, "Who do you think you are?" Or, If they only knew all the times I've failed, or any other nagging doubt. This all comes down to knowing who we are and a deep knowing that we have value. Doing some personal shadow work can clear up a lot of this. It's not fun work. But by consciously allowing a personal existential crisis of not knowing, we become liberated from conditioning and can choose to love ourselves with a new wholeness. This wholeness becomes an authenticity that does not have to be defended, especially internally. Failure is a great topic on its own. I want to share an exercise that I did a few years back which was transformational. Give yourself 3 days to do this. Get out a pad and pen. Place them somewhere in your home or office that is kind of in your face and accessible. This is to be a list of your failures. Be honest. Don't omit failures that bring up shame. Build this list over the days. Whenever a failure comes to mind, go to the list and write it down. At the end of the 3 days, then begin one by one asking each itemized failure the same 2 questions. What did I learn from this? And what did I learn about myself? Take as long as you need to address each failure. Over the days, you'll find yourself modifying previous answers. Allow that. I guarantee you that you'll be impressed by how your energy shifts. For me, I eventually came to the legitimate conclusion that I had learned more by my failures than those around me who appeared to always be successful. This exercise will provide a foundational shift in your relationship with yourself. So far, I've discussed failure, imposter, and board meetings in order to illustrate how external leadership relates directly to self-leadership. If you wrote down the list, explore each item and discover what it means for you, what challenges and gifts it holds for you to expand into who you really are. There is not only spiritual value in embracing leadership principles, there's spiritual growth. In closing, I feel that self-leadership is a vital umbrella for a spectrum of skills, talents, and behaviors that take us to our next level and really do change the world around us. Thank you for listening. Until next time. Building relationships based on core truths, identifying with source, we evolve, accelerate, and manifest creative ideas for the benefit of ourselves and the planet. Thank you for listening to Agent of Change Thought into Form. For more info, to contact me, or support this project, visit thoughtintoform.org. That's thoughtintoform.org.